We had been hearing so many negative news from Canada. However, today's video is going to bring a smile to your face because I have good news. Canada announced new work permit extension policy 2024 for students. If you want to know more about it, make sure you keep watching the video till the end.
But before we start, a quick introduction about myself for my new audience. My name is Sarika and I have been living in the UK for the last 14 years. I work full-time in IT and during my free time, I make YouTube videos. I have two good news to share with you guys as well. First is about study abroad service. You guys already know that I can help you study abroad in any of these listed countries. You simply need to fill the form which is provided in my video description and pinned comment, and my team will reach out to you soon. If you don't hear back from them, you can send me a direct email on yourknowledgebuddy@gmail.com. Second update from me, I'm launching a job assistance service to help you find a job in the UK. I know many of you are struggling to find jobs and need more help navigating the UK job market. I'll assist you from start till the finish, including job searching, networking, and interview preparation. This is a paid service and I will take only a few students to start with. I offer two packages, one for groups and for one, which is more expensive, one-to-one consultation. If you want more details, you can email me with your CV at yourknowledgebuddy@gmail.com. I'm hosting a paid webinar on 29th of September for those people who want to start their career in IT. You can either be in India or UK, Pakistan, or any part of the world. It really doesn't matter, as this webinar will be online, completely remote, so that you can join from the comfort of your home. Also, if you cannot attend, the webinar will be recorded, but you have to book your seat. The links are in my video description and pinned comment. If you cannot find the link, simply comment link and I'll get back to you soon.
So without any further delay, let's get started with today's video by inviting my special guest, Shafali from Canada. Hi Shafali, welcome to Your Knowledge Buddy. And if you don't mind, can you please introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Hi, Sarika. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. My name is Shafali Kapoor and I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I am based in Toronto, Canada, and the name of my firm is T. Immigration.
Thank you. So, Shafali, again, you are not a new face for my audience. I believe they already know you. One of the reasons why I invited you again is to discuss the new topic which I heard about, which is about Canada's new work permit extension policy for students. Is that correct? What does it mean for existing students, new students, eligibility criteria, documents? Can you talk about it, please?
So, yes, it is true. IRCC did announce this policy recently that they will be granting work permits to international students whose work permits are expiring this year in 2024, by December 2024. But when this policy was announced, we all got really excited because you know what, as immigration consultant, while this is our profession, while I help clients get permanent residence in Canada, but also, you know, somewhere in our heart, we have sympathy and we empathize with these international students, especially with what has been happening in the last year and a half with these international students, with the policies and everything. So we do, you know, want that they should get, especially the ones who really worked hard, they should get options to permanently stay here. So when this policy was announced, we're really happy about it, that, you know, finally people whose work permits are expiring this year, they will be able to extend it, especially the ones who have somewhat, you know, PNP's Provincial Nominee Program, you know, they have an arrangement going on. Now, this policy was basically in conjunction with provinces, okay? IRCC had said that anybody whose work permit is expiring this year in 2024, but was valid on May 7th, 2024. So that is one criteria, that it should have been valid on May 7th, 2024. And if their work permits are valid anytime until December 2024, they are eligible to apply as long as they get a work permit support letter from the province that they want to live in. Now, the criteria to get work permit support letters had to be established by individual provinces. So they were going to decide what is the basis on which we are going to give out these letters. Now, also, there was a condition that the province should have signed an agreement with the federal government. So IRCC is the federal government, like the government for Canada, but every province has its own allocation limit also to invite people and give them PR in Canada. So So if let's say Ontario says that I have labor market shortages in certain industries, they have the ability to nominate people, and those people with that nomination can apply for PR in Canada through the federal government. So when this policy was announced, the condition was work permit should be valid until December, or was valid on May 7th, and you should have a work permit support letter from the province that you want to immigrate to. Then we all were waiting that the provinces are going to give out the information of how the criteria is going to work. But to much dismay, we did not get any updates from any of the provinces except Manitoba and Alberta. So Manitoba, a few months ago, had already announced that they've signed an agreement with the government of Canada, and they'll be helping 6,700 international students or temporary workers to extend their work permits. But no other province had talked about it at that time. Then Manitoba completely went quiet, and then we didn't hear anything from Manitoba. But just yesterday, Manitoba announced on their website the eligibility criteria to apply for the work permit support letter. And I'll share that with you in just a minute.
Yeah.
Then Alberta announced on their website the same day when the government of Canada announced that they are going to introduce this policy. But Alberta says that nobody can apply to them for a work permit support letter. They will themselves reach out to candidates who they think are eligible for this work permit support letter. And I'm going to share that announcement with you as well. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Then we have bigger provinces like Ontario and BC, where majority immigration happens, right? But they haven't announced anything about this work permit support letter arrangement. In fact, I reached out to Ontario for some of my clients that are waiting for their PNPs, and Ontario replied that we have not signed the agreement with the federal government yet, so we don't know if we'll be issuing. If there's any such update in the future of we sign this agreement, then we will post it on our website. So Ontario is not doing it. BC hasn't announced anything. We haven't heard anything from other provinces like Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, none of the provinces. So right now, the only two provinces that are participating in it is Manitoba and Alberta, of which Manitoba one can apply to, and Alberta you cannot even apply to. Now, do I have the ability to share my screen just to share the...
Yes, you do, but I do have questions before we jump into it. So am I understanding this correct? This extension policy is only for students who are in Canada now, who are on a work permit, post-study work permit, PGWP, right?
Yes, not just a PGWP. Also, it could be any kind of work permit. It is not just an open work permit.
So it's not only for students. So any other people who are on a work permit, they can extend their visa.
Yes, they can extend their visa work permit as long as they had a valid work permit on May 7, 2024, and their work permit is expiring sometime this year in 2024. And the second criteria is that they should have a work permit support letter from the province that they will be immigrating to in the future.
Okay, so say someone on 12th of May, because their visa expired and they already left Canada, yeah? And now they are back to India. So now they are, because their visa was valid on 7th, their visa got expired only on 12th of May, and that's why they went back. So they are eligible to apply for this extension.
Now, every province is going to set up their own criteria. That's what I said, right? For example, Alberta says that only if your PNP is in process, right? And it's a pending decision, then we will give you. Whereas Manitoba says, even if you have an expression of interest submitted, then we will give it to you, provided there are several criteria. And that's why I thought, you know what, instead of me just talking and confusing people, let me show you the screen and I'll go by the eligibility criteria one by one.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yes, shuffling.
Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to show you first Manitoba, because I think Manitoba is one that people can apply to. And this has been in headlines for a very, very long time. Can you see my screen?
It's loading. Yes.
Okay, so here it is, the temporary public policy to facilitate work permits for prospective provincial nominee candidates. This was posted on September 18th. The eligibility criteria. You either hold a work permit that will expire in 2024. Okay, so somebody whose work permit, let's say, is expiring December 10th, eligible to apply. You held a work permit, either this or next criteria, you held a work permit on May 7th that has since expired and have submitted an application for new work permit under Section 200 of the IRPR, which is Section 200 says that you are outside Canada right now and you've made an application. So if you had a work permit on May 7th and you left Canada, but now you've submitted an application for extension or for a new work permit from outside Canada, then you're eligible. Okay. You held you held a work permit valid on May 7th that has since expired, and you have submitted an application for an extension of the authorization to remain in Canada as a temporary resident. So you are still in Canada and you've applied to extend your status. And for a temporary resident, it could be worker, student, visitor, anything. Okay. The next criteria is you held a work permit on May 7th that has since expired, and you have submitted an application for restoration of status. Again, that restoration can only be done from inside Canada. Another criteria is you were authorized to work pursuant to section. So under implied status. So somebody had applied for a work permit and they were, on May 7th, they were allowed to work under implied status. Implied status is when your permit has expired, but you have already submitted an application to extend your work permit, right? And the work permit extension application remains pending or was approved and have submitted an application for a new work permit under Section 200 of the IRPR. And then the final criteria is that you were authorized to work pursuant to implied status again, and the work permit extension application remains pending or approved, and have submitted an application for an extension of the authorization to remain in Canada as a temporary resident. So basically that they've been working under implied status, but then they've also submitted an application to extend their stay in Canada. You get it? So this is the criteria, but this criteria is very limited to Manitoba.
Okay.
In addition to that, Manitoba says that you should have also a valid Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program expression of interest on May 10th, and you have a valid Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program expression of interest profile at the time of this application. So this means that on May 10th also there should have been a profile, but now sometimes what happens is that these profiles are only valid for 1 year. It could have expired, but then as of today you have another profile. So then you should have two profiles, one valid on May 10th also and one valid today also. And then you were residing in Manitoba prior to May 10th, 2024 and have continuously remained residing in Manitoba. So that means that person lives in Manitoba. If the person doesn't live in Manitoba, not eligible. And they're currently employed in Manitoba with a Manitoba employer that is willing to provide a letter of employment. So they should have been employed in Manitoba as well. So this is the criteria how people can be eligible. This is for Manitoba. And they will only do it if their work permit is expiring within the next 45 days. So it's not that people can apply today if their work permit is expiring in December. Only people whose work permits are expiring within the next 45 days, you apply. This way they make sure that it's staggered, right? Not everybody is applying at the same time and then people will not get decisions in time. So they're going to do staggered intake so that slowly and gradually they start issuing those letters. That's for Manitoba. Now I'll show you what Alberta says. Let me just stop the screen and then share the next screen. And then the next province that is going to be issuing those letters is Alberta. And I shared the announcement that Alberta made on their website on August 26th. So Alberta says that they will also issue a letter of support to seek a maximum 2-year open work permit from IRCC. But now the criteria is that only people who were waiting for a final decision on their application as of August 26th, so basically they had already submitted their application, and who held a valid work permit with an expiry date between May 7th and December 31st at the time of the application. So this is first criteria. And then the second application criteria is then they had their application. So if there are people who had their application declined between May 7th and August 26th on the sole basis that their work permit had expired in 2024, right? So only these, all the things that Manitoba is talking about, they don't care. They said you have a PNP application in process. Okay. You have a work permit that's valid between May 7th and December 31st. Okay. Or if your application was refused, Alberta refused your application because your work permit had expired. In that case, we will give you a work permit application. And they say that if you see, applicants cannot apply to participate in this initiative. So people can't apply to this. The AAIP will complete an initial assessment to determine which nominee candidates are eligible. Applicants will need to demonstrate they are likely to meet minimum requirements for this stream and have a valid Alberta job offer. So again, when the news came, we all were very excited about it. We were very happy. I made a video on my social media channel that this is great news. I have so many people in Ontario because because I'm based in Ontario, right? So I do a lot of Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program applications. I was so excited for my clients, they'll be able to get their work permit extensions now. But unfortunately, not all the provinces at this current moment are participating. Yes, of course, this could change in the near future. But again, how many months do we have left? Just 2 more months before December ends.
Yeah, true.
Right?
But still, Shafali, I think some good news is better than no good news, right? At least
I agree with you. I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. But Sarika, I'll tell you from where I'm seeing things, because I'm right here on the ground and I can see what exactly is happening. I deal with a very, very large volume of people. Like I speak to a lot of international students. I see the level of desperation at this point in this country because people are running short of options and they're panicking, and it's heartbreaking to see that. It's very heartbreaking to see. I get clients in my office and they cry. They sit in my office and they cry and they're like, we don't know what to do, we don't want to go back. But there are limits. As an immigration practitioner, I can only show them a direction, but ultimately they have to work on it, right?
It's the same situation even in the UK, Shafali. I mean, at least Canadian government, they are doing something good. I have not heard anything like that in the UK. If your visa expires on that day, you leave. Till now, as of today, while recording the video, there's no rule within the UK that they are bringing a new rule. Okay, if you applied for your visa, if you are all those conditions that you're talking about, we don't have that. If your visa expires, you become illegal if you try to be in this country. And I know people are misusing other ways to stay back in the UK. So the situation is same, scenario is same. So all international students as well in the UK, when they come with the dream of settling down. Nobody wants to go back. That's the thing.
Yeah. And I think those dreams are, I mean, again, I know a lot of people say that nobody promised you permanent residence or nobody promised you that you'll ultimately get to settle. But then imagine, I mean, think from that person's perspective, why would they come here? They're coming here for better opportunities. They're not coming here just to contribute to the government. Like it has to be win-win for both, right?
Yeah.
The Canadian government, again, I can only talk on, from the perspective of how Canadian immigration has worked, because I don't understand UK immigration that well. I don't research it. I don't study about it. But I know that Canadian government has always portrayed its immigration in a way that it's a pathway for permanent residence. And now suddenly they've, it almost feels like they were holding everybody's hand up until one point, like they'd held the hands of people, and now suddenly they're like, you're on your own. Like you go to a carnival and you go with your parents and they hold your hand, they take you in, but then suddenly they just leave your hand and they're like, now you're on your own. So that's exactly how it feels right now. These international students were like, we paid you guys, like we did so much, we're paying taxes, we're working, we're contributing to your economy. Now you're saying we don't need you. We needed you in COVID when Canadians were not ready to work, and now we don't need you. I know Canadians hate immigrants at this point. Immigrants don't know where to go. It's a tug of war that's going on, and I don't know how long this will last, but it breaks my heart to see whatever is happening right now, especially being right in amidst all of this. Like I can see it right from like the ground level. I'm a Canadian. I understand from a Canadian perspective of what's happening. Obviously an immigrant that has worked hard in this country. And then I can also see from the international students' perspective how hard it is for them.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So to all my audience, if you're watching this video, if you need any legal help or advice, all the details about Shafali is already on the screen. It's already in my description and pinned comment. So go and make sure you have a conversation with her. Either you're stuck in Canada or you are in India or any part of the world. Thanks, Shafali. Thank you for coming and sharing your knowledge and information with my audience. Thank you.
You're welcome.